Hello YouTuber, welcome to this fine day, and today we are going to have a look at Esika, God of the Tree in Historic Brawl. This deck aims to win by playing the backside of Esika, the Prismatic Bridge, and taking over the game with the amount of value this enchantment creates. So the Prismatic Bridge costs 5 mana, and at the beginning of your upkeep reveal cards from the top of the library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So the first thing you obviously think, okay, but what if we only have good cards to it? And that's exactly what we're doing, where we have only 7 possible hits with this. 1 creature being Atraxa Grand Unifier, and then 6 planeswalkers with Teferi, Turtle Wanderer, Chandra, Nissa, Kaya, and Nicol Bolas. And so, first and foremost, Esika, is no stranger to Historic Brawl. Everybody probably knows Esika at this point, really popular commander, and basically only plays against the best of the best in the so-called Hell Queue. Because with how the matchmaking works, if you play a strong commander or one that's considered strong by Wizards of the Coast, you will also only play against other strong commanders. And Esika is basically among the best of the best. So, traditionally, Esika decks played more ramp, but since I figured out there was like no really stock Esika list, I wanted to optimize Esika, and I found that the ramp is really not that great. Because what we did with this list is we replaced most of the ramp that is usually played with interaction instead. And that way we can actually get to a point where we survive and, cast Esika. As for the hits themselves you get from Esika, there are some like traditional targets that people play, like big stompy creatures like Ulamog, Coma, and whatnot, that you're really not seeing in this list here. So instant speed creature removal like Swords to Plowshares is really popular, especially in Hellcube. And I want all of these creatures to survive the Swords to Plowshares check, where if they produce value, they should do so on ETB and basically immediately. And the only creature that does that really right now is Atraxa Grand Unifier. And then the rest of the cards are planeswalkers that can immediately impact the board and also create value. So Teferi, minus put something away, plus draw. Eternal Wanderer, 0, put bodies onto play, -4, wipe the board. Chandra, plus kill the opponent, and then 2 different minus abilities for interaction. Nissa, really good in the mirror because you can just absolutely destroy the opponent's Prismatic Bridge again and again and again, and then plus create huge bodies. Kaya, 0 draw cards, plus stabilize against aggro, minus interact. And then Nicol Bolas, God-Pharaoh, will be mostly used for the +1. Like the +2 does create card advantage, but +1, you really want to empty the opponent's hand first. And then, the minus is when you actually need to minus something. And that's the philosophy here. Also, about the mana base. There was a bunch of work going into this mana base. We run 45 lands. I would like to cut down on lands, but the issue with that is that we're basically mostly running dual color lands, and we also need to hit a certain amount of pips in the mana base. So let's say we need 18 blue sources, but the only way we get those blue sources is by adding more lands, because we don't have enough triple and like penta lands, like we don't have fetch lands. So what you're seeing here is that we're running all the shock lands, we're running all the slow lands. Well, no, those are the pain lands. Pain lands, slow lands, shock lands, 3 fast lands, including Seachrome Coast, and then we are running all Triumphs, Command Tower, and Mana Confluence, and no basics, because we can't afford to have our lands only produce 1 color in the shell. This leads to a pretty painful mana base, but I would take a painful mana base over a mana base that can only inconsistently cast our spells. Speaking of spells, how hard is it to cast Endless Detour and Void Rend in this deck? Not that hard actually, it is pretty easy. And the main thing you're looking at here is how many of the same color pips has a card. There are often going to be scenarios where Void Rend and Endless Detour are harder to cast than easier to cast than a Day of Judgment, purely because Day of Judgment has 2 of the same color pips, and you're mostly looking for 1 of each first and foremost, right? And then, you know, eventually you want to get your second white source for your board wipes in matchups where that matters. And then the last thing is Hellq has a bunch of aggressive decks, namely Finn the Fangbearer and Kinnan Bonded Prodigy, and so you're kind of forced into a lot of low cost interaction like Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, and so on and so forth. But that traditionally makes you pretty weak against the other matchups that you're going to see. That's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Brawl, like super hard control, right? Like blue-white control with Teferi, Hero of Dominaria is like the bane of existence for a lot of Esika players. And the way we combat this, because if we just try to slam big things, they will just counter it one by one. The way we combat this is 2-for-1s, efficient 2-for-1s, so like Expressive Iteration, Thoughtseize Intervention, Memory Deluge, slowly pulling ahead in card advantage, and then we are also able in this deck to put away our bad draws in a lot of matchups. Like against control, we're going to have a lot of cards that are dead, like Lightning Bolt and whatnot, but also against aggro, if we draw an Atraxa or something like that, we don't have time to cast that, so we also want to put that away. So we're playing cards like Celestis, Prismary Command, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Seek New Knowledge, cards like that allow us to draw a bunch of cards and then just, you know, discard another card as an additional cost, or put the card away. And that is really a really efficient way to only have cards in the matchup that matter. I believe, yeah, that was the basic rundown of the deck and how this like competitive Esika God of the Tree deck is constructed. If you enjoy this kind of content, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel. I will see you in the games, but before that, I would highly recommend you guys to check out my Discord. We are brewing a bunch of really cool decks there. People can just come, say hi, look at all the cards, and you can also mostly see like the decks on Discord before I record them as well, and talk about card choices and whatnot. So yeah, it's a really cool environment. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the game, and let's do this. We are ready to play against Rusko Clockmaker. And let's see. So the problem against Rusko is that removal is not super efficient. We want to prevent the Rusko player from having clocks. So either removal for the clocks or just straight up counter magic. The one reason to keep this here is Search for Scanter. That is a big reason actually. So I kind of like it, but also we have like 2 dead cards here. One of the issues I've had with this deck is kind of being hesitant to mulligan, purely because while our mana base can do some work, there are going to be cases where you're going to run into problems. So, what are we going to do about this hand? Kind of like the only card I would keep this is a 5 card hand. I would keep this at 5 cards, and I think we can mulligan a bit to see if we get something better. Okay. Hand height is great. We have all the colors. At least once. Mythos of Nethroi can remove a clock, so that's really great. And the only issue being drawing lands, but we're running 45, so that's a pretty big number. Maybe we should have led on a tapped Watery Grave and then just Mind Spike, play Jetmir's Garden, but I want to stay flexible here. This is interesting. Life total against Rusko matters a lot, by the way. Like, getting burned out is how you're going to lose this match. So I'm kind of thinking about being greedy. We can definitely wait a turn. It's totally fine. And if they Thoughtseize us and take the Mind Spike, that means that they don't take the Mythos of Nethroi. Let's have a look. If they counter us this, I'm pretty happy about it, honestly. Unless if they Mind... Yeah, okay, perfect. I was going to say... not Mind Spike. The one that puts the card on top again. Because that would have been a disaster, kind of. So we are going to Sheldred's Edict the Trophy Mage. Mostly because Rusko doesn't really play Planeswalkers. If they have a Planeswalker, we can just Fateful Absence that. And this Trophy Mage will probably not leave play otherwise. So let's just use our mana here. The one reason to keep this is that we can discard it to the Prismari command, but we already have like Fateful Absence, Chandra, Awaken, Inferno, like plenty of targets. And we kind of want to create a treasure and destroy an artifact. Like, Prismari command destroying an artifact is huge. So, since we have the Mythos of Nethroi, I think I'm willing to create treasure, draw. Goodbye Chandra, goodbye Fateful Absence. And then Rusko has a problem, like a problematic time removing the Prismatic Bridge, honestly. So let's put them to the test. What land do we play? Yeah, the Godless Shrine. So with this we can theoretically play Bridge next turn as well if we choose to not counter. But if we don't counter, we don't have the mana up for an offer you can't refuse. So if they Pact of Negation, I think it's pretty yeah. So they Pact of Negation, that's also fine. We are going to Mythos of Nethroi, the Clock. They're going to have 3 mana up if they play an untapped land, which is actually a lot. They don't have the untapped land, so that's pretty great. So I believe we will just Mythos, yeah, Mythos the Clock right now. Because that would use their treasures if they choose to counter. And then we want to draw an untapped land in this spot. I assume they have a negate, which is pretty smart of them. Like, keeping the Chandra was probably pretty good as well. And now we're kind of running out of cards. Sure, if you consider, that's fine. I'm waiting on this endless detour. Just right before the midnight clock pops. Display. Oh my god, no. We have to get rid of the Displacer Kitten. That card is just absolutely threatening. And then if they counter, we're gonna Wrath of God the board. And they don't. They play this really well. Yeah, the Pact of Negation really got us in this spot here. So yeah, that's pretty rough. I don't think we can do anything here. If we play Esika, it gets countered and we're going to lose on the spot. They play Displacer Kitten, and what's going to happen most likely is that they just chain spells now. Blink Rusko repeatedly, create more mana, and we are kind of toast to that. What could we have done differently? Yeah, we could have not used the Sheldred's Edict. Yeah, I think that was kind of a really solid play, not using the Sheldred's Edict, because it was dead. Like, we would have gotten hit. Like, the Trophy Mage would have hit us for two a turn, right? But then we would have been able to keep a Chandra Awakened Inferno as an uncounterable threat. Memory Lapse obviously being a huge problem. A huge problem. So they counter that, you know, that happens, definitely. We're going to explore. They're going to pop the clock in their turn. Drawing 7. And the Rusko versus Esika matchup is kind of, it's okay. I think I'm 50-50 against Rusko at the moment. Overall, the score is like 52-10 for this deck. Like, it's a 50-50 matchup. But I believe the better the Rusko player gets, the worse this matchup gets for us. But yeah, definitely a lot of cool and interesting decisions to make. So yeah, Whir of Invention for 6 for Bolas' Citadel. Although I think an engine would have just done the same unless they don't have anything to trigger the engine. But they also played the land, right? Yeah, they go for the Citadel line that with Displacer Kit and Immortal Sun. Especially the Immortal Sun is pretty fun given that we mostly have Planeswalkers. Anyways, we're gonna scoop it up right here. Great game. We are ready to play against Emry, Lurker of the Lock. And this matchup is all about resolving the Prismatic Bridge in time. I do like this hand. This properly slows down the opponent. We have Seek New Knowledge to resculpt our hand a bit. Enough interaction to delay the Emry. Like, especially a Mystical Dispute on the draw is just amazing against Emry, because Emry will usually come down on turn 2. If they have to turn 1 Emry, good beats, I guess. We're toast. I mean, we have the swords, but... Okay. I was worried there for a second that, you know, the turn 1 Emry was coming. Oh, that's so huge! They don't have another 1-drop artifact, so now they're super behind and can't play. Like, if they had a 1-drop artifact here, they could have played the 1-drop and then Emry, and then next turn threaten Emry again. But this way, they actually don't have that available, which is... It's massive. It is absolutely massive. Shivan Reef. Sure. Yeah, so they have a tap land, so that's even better. Thinking about putting away the Soul Shatter because it's not efficient enough. Yeah. Let's see. Think we just shock the Breeding Pool. Right, play Fable. We're happy with that, and we're gonna loot away this Arcane Signet because I don't value the ramp at this point of the game. Sure. Spell Pierce, kind of really happy they played that, because that means they can't Spell Pierce Esika, because Spell Pierce is, you know, notoriously strong against it is notoriously strong against expensive non-creature spells. Excuse me. So, options, huh? Binding on Emry, delay Emry turn. Seems about right. Emry costs 4 more, 7, 1, 2, 3. So they have 3. Yeah, I mean, they can easily replay Emry. It's just... We're just buying a turn doing that. Don't hate that. Killing the Midnight Clock in this spot just doesn't do anything because they can just rebuy it. Swansong, kind of really happy they did that, because, you know, that again means like they don't have anything important to bring back here. They just have the Ornithopter. Like, Emry does do anything if it doesn't bring anything back, right? Key to the Archive, yeah, don't care. No, we were in a great position, actually. We were in an absolutely fantastic position. Like, they used their counter magic on arguably the wrong thing, I would say. Like, now they just have to top deck. Pretty cool. And like, if we kill the Emry in this spot, that's actually beneficial for them. But you know what we're gonna do instead? Boom, Prismatic Bridge. Attacking, you know, kind of... It does something. We're still going to attack, because if they block and then bring back the Ornithopter, with the Emery, that makes it so they can't bring something else back. So maybe they have a draw artifact that sacrifices itself. They can bring that back. But now they are in a lot of trouble. Atraxa, sure. What do we have here? We can't just Curse of Silence and then like Curse of Silence, Tails End, kill Emery, kill Emery, kill Emery. Black Market Connections, I don't think we need that. We definitely need another white source if we want to do that plan. Although, kind of don't need to. Anyways, we had the second white source with Arcane Signet, by the way. Let's attack. And then, let's see. Maybe, I mean, we could just be... Like, they don't have anything threatening in graveyard. Again, but it's just like... We can just really deny them here. Let's start on the Thoughteize Plowshares to see if that even resolves and then make our next move based on that. That's likely going to be Curse of Silence on Emery. We're holding up the Tails End. Memory Lapse. Sure, that's totally fine. And Cold Steel Heart on, let's say, black. Sure, black is a good number. And then we can either Tails End or Tezzeret's Reckoning in this spot. Costs already 1, huh? Wait, I didn't do the math. Why does this cost 1? I don't want this to cost 1. No. Total nonsense. I mean, I'm just fooling around at this point. It just doesn't make sense to kill Emery here. See, now they got value out of it. Malevolent Hermit. Now I can't counter the non-creatures. They have additional value in the graveyard. That was like... I don't know what that was. Not something I want to repeat. So... Tezzeret's Reckoning. Sure. Bolt. Curse. Yep. Prismatic Bridge triggering. Getting a Walker. Yeah, it is just way too much value. We, at the very least, we can just, excuse me, kill Emery every turn so it can't activate, right? And then we can use the Tails End to counter the Midnight Clock activation. So like Lightning Bolts and what. It's over. GG. We are ready to play against Niv Mizzet Reborn. And traditionally, Niv Mizzet has a lot of enchantment removal, which means we, like, Esika resolving doesn't mean anything, it's going to get likely removed, so we're going to play around with other threats. But, yeah, this hand, we need the blue, but the double Thoughtseize effect gives me a lot of confidence here. So we can just start, I guess, very interesting. So early on, what might they play? Paradise Druid is the one reason why I might want to Thoughtseize first. That's a 2-mana creature that produces any color, can fix their mana. Upside of Thoughtseize is that we have more flexibility. Of Duress now is that we have more flexibility later, but I think I'm gonna lead on the Thoughtseize. Swords to Plowshares, we don't care about that. Angerous Rampage, we kind of care about that. Yeah, then this is what I mean, like, if we we really want to take the Angerous Rampage, honestly. And we don't care about the Rada, but now we don't have the option to discard the Rada later. But we have a Soul Shadow that we're going to use. Do we just deny their mana? Is that our long-term plan? Either way, I'd rather don't let them have the Angerous Rampage here. Then see later. Oh, that's a beautiful draw. How are we going to Duress? We don't use Expressive Iteration next turn. That is one thing. Let's wait one more turn. Oh no. Yeah, we are going to Soul Shatter next turn. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we have to remove this Rada, right? Oh no, we don't. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and a wash away. So yeah, let's duress you. Let's have a look. They take our wash away versus disdainful stroke. This is interesting because I mean they don't have the blue anyways. Disdainful Stroke is better against our non-commander targets, and we have Atraxa in hand, whereas Wash Away is obviously better against our commander. I think I'm still going to take the Wash Away, though. We're way closer to playing that. And then we have to play the Sundawn Pass in order to play Expressive Iteration next turn. We're not going to play Expressive Iteration this turn, because otherwise we're going to lose one card here. Although they didn't have a land on top. Oh yeah, they just scooped. So they played Rada in a spot where they had a land drop to make and they didn't have a land on top. So killing the Rada here would have left them with, again, no land to play because we know the top card of their deck has no land. Yeah, just very rough for the opponent. GG. We are ready to play against Nif Mizzet Reborn. And Wrath of God is a dead card in this matchup. We don't have the red for this Fable. Yeah, I think this is a pretty clean mulligan. Cut down, dead card in the matchup. Fateful Absence, kind of dead card in the matchup. We have all of our colors except white. I think we can put this back as well. And yeah, pretty happy to keep this. Don't need a Day of Judgment here. Lead on the tap land, and then we are trying to stick a black market connection. So let's see. I'm really hoping this resolves, which it will, but I think this will, like, there is a very high likelihood of this getting destroyed by disenchant effects. Very high likelihood of this getting destroyed by disenchant effects. Yes. I was afraid of that because now we don't have anything. We literally don't have anything. This is rough. Yeah, I was saying earlier, Niv running a ton of disenchant effects. So, that's a source that casts spells. That is beautiful, actually. But missing out on the one land drop, putting us behind one turn is obviously very, very, very rough. Are they missing a land drop as well? Please tell me they do. They indeed do. Beautiful. Okay. So we definitely need to kill this Fable Relder because they also missed the land drop. And I think I want the treasure in this spot. Draw discard is also so appealing though. But like the treasure allows us to keep up extra mana. Now we're just going to Expressive Iteration next turn, so let's just do this. Don't need a Wrath of God, don't need a Fragment Reality, I believe. Or a Sword, yeah, no, Fragment Reality. Going to Expressive Iteration. We could just slam Esika, but I'm like super afraid of disenchant effects and we can't just Mind Spite next turn, so Expressive Iteration. Oh, that's beautiful. 1-2 hand. Library. Yep, you. And then start by doing this. Yeah, start by Thoughtseizing you. We are going to take all the removal here, although they have too much removal. Well, they just have way too much removal to deal with this and force this through. They don't have blue for Disdainful Stroke. So that's something to think about. And I think we need to just take the cheap ones. explore. And then take the fracture as well. Then they still have the modify. If they top deck the blue source, good beats, right? Yeah, like maybe we can top deck something? No? I mean, we just need to run this Esika into enchantment removal again and again, don't we? Oh, it's... Yeah, I mean, they had the anti-Esika hand. I would have kept this as well. Like, I would have been absolutely happy with the... Oh god. Yeah. I would have been happy with this. Like, they have been traumatized by Esika for sure, and they have 1-2 more layers of defense. That is a good game. A really cool one, but yeah, we got punished. Kinda. GG. We are ready to play against Kinnan Bond the Prodigy. And let's see. We go first. Great. Do we have early interaction? Yes. Let's keep this. Perfect. So, Zagoth, Triumph. Can also lead on Godless Shrine. Keep, since we're on the, like, play, I think it's fine to just play the tap land here. Elishor Shepherd. We're very cool with that, actually, right? Question mark? Something Shock and Godless Shrine, we hold up Fragment Reality plus Fatal Push, and like we hold up everything. Be great. Malevolent Hermit. What is that version? Interesting. Let's see. Do we want to kill the Hermit now? No, let's just play Blooming March Pass. Still hold up everything. So let's see. Opponent plays her attacks with Hermit. I think we can take this. I don't want to kill the Hermit and then in the end step just and then the main two they play land, return Hermit. So this way they don't have that option, right? I assume their hand is full of counter magic. Let's keep our health high by playing these lands tapped. And then we're not going to play Esika. But yeah, again, I just think like they have a lot of counter magic. So we can just wait and then protect Esika with the Dovin's Veto. Midnight Clock. If we Dovin's Veto that, they don't have counter magic up. So I think that's a great deal. Because like then they don't have an untapped blue source. Deal with the Esika. Yep, play you. Should have played the Coeves of Koilos in order to hold up Fragment Reality. But I don't think it matters in the long run. If they have removal... Oh, this is highly interesting. No, let's put it in the command zone purely because, you know... the opponent might not have more removal. If they have a Reclamation Sage, we are in a lot of trouble. That removes an enchantment, but they don't. We're in a great spot. Prismatic Bridge. Stifle. Sure. We are going to just play a Teferi Hero of Dominaria, I assume? Yeah. Play that. Draw a card. And we're probably going to Lightning Bolt the Oracle of Moldaia in order to prevent them from having value off the top of their library. So So, yeah, untap a couple of lands. And we hold up Fragment Reality, which is pretty neat. I assume they will get removal for this Esika. No, they just grab a River's Rebuke, which is not going to be good enough. Because if they just return everything to hand, they will run into the issue of that we just, you know, replay literally everything. Draw a card.
If you can.
Hurry.
I kind of... Do we just want to... Now, I think we just want to save the Supreme Verdict, right? And this Kinnan is like super not threatening at all. Although we can just play Eternal Wanderer. And then... Like... Yes, I do worry too much. If we zero, they just bounce everything back. If we -4, they can kill the Eternal Wanderer. But then the Kinnan is dead for sure. I think we can also just go ahead and, if they want to kill the Eternal Wanderer, Infernal Grasp / Fragment Reality the Allosaur Shepherd. So they go to attacks. No, they just rebuke. Don't even try it. Pretty fine by that. Let's just Fragment Reality this anyways. And then we just replay Esika. Replay Teferi. Plus. And they consumed. Yeah, this River's Rebuke didn't do anything. Like, that's exactly what I was saying, right? Anyways, GG. We are done with the games. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And the Prismatic Bridge is a really fun commander in my opinion. Lots of interesting things to optimize about the deck, although I know that people would disagree, but I'm talking about optimization here, right? Like, what is the optimal deck? And I think there are lots of interesting discussions to be had. Yeah, again, like the choice of top end, was card, like what removal you use, how much ramp, do you even ramp, right? And again, I've had a lot of success with just like cutting down on ramp, and we just wanted interaction. And the ramp we have in this deck is kind of more of a necessity in like, okay, Explore is one of the weakest cards, I think, right? And so is Growspire, but like Signet Code still hard to fix our mana, and we kind of need that, and Celestis is still pretty good into controlled matches. Ultimately, we are limited by the mana base, and it's not going to get better unless we have like actual fetch lands on Arena. So yeah, that is always going to be a huge problem. And yeah, there is not much we can do about that. If you want to play this deck on a budget, no. This deck is incredibly expensive. I believe it is the most expensive deck I have played on this channel to date. It comes around with, you know, only 7 mythics and 71 rares. And that is already including the fact that I'm running the rare version of Growspire, otherwise it would be 72. So this is an incredibly expensive deck. Like, let me show. Like, those are the non-rares / non-mythics. That is it. And then you to scroll up and you're like, huh. Yeah, you need the mana base. You definitely need the mana base. The choice of top end is yours. You can run weaker top end. I think that is the most flexible thing about the deck. If you run board wipes, make sure they cost 4 mana, so you can turn 4 board wipe, turn 5 Esika. Or, you know, 3 mana. But like, 3 mana board wipes are kind of hard to cast, and also you don't need them really on 3. Unless you're like against very specific decks. But then again, board wipes in general are very specific. So, yeah, run board webs that cost less than 5 mana. And then the cheap interaction is also kind of needed, because that is the reason why we can do what we are doing, where, you know, we play cheap and efficient interaction. And if we don't play efficient interaction anymore, there is no reason for us to, you know, play this deck, if that makes sense. Like, the way we pull ahead towards our bridge is we have the best removal available to us. But if we don't play the best removal, that plan kind of falls apart. Yeah, Void Rent, Endless Detour, overall really solid cards. You don't need to craft it just for this deck, but remember, there are no wrong threats, just wrong answers. And if you have an answer that doesn't line up with the threat you're facing, your answer doesn't do anything. So we just wanted a few removal pieces in this deck that just deal with pretty much anything in this game. And those are like Endless Detour, Void Rent, Soul Shatter to some extent, Mythos of Nethroi, right? Those kinds of cards. So, yeah, it's getting rough there as well. So, yeah, very, very expensive deck, but also pretty fun. And honestly, it's not that bad to craft. There are cheaper decks out there, but those decks require more specific cards where you go... Where Esika, if you spend those 71 rares and 7 mythics, you are going to use those cards a long time, or like at least most of them, right? Like Nicol, Bolas, God-Pharaoh is kind of a bad card, unless you cheat it out with the bridge. But the mana base, you will always use these lands in Historic Brawl for as long the format exists, basically. Even if we get fetch lands, we're still going to use Battlefield Forge in 2-color and 3-color decks, right? So, yeah, mana base, great crafts. Top end, for the most part, great crafts. Interaction, you're crafting the best interaction in the format. You're not going to use that, like, you're never using that, if that makes sense. Whatever. You're always going to use the best interaction in the format. Swords to Plowshares, amazing spell, Lightning Bolt, good card, right? So your crafts actually mean something in this deck, and I think that is a really cool thing to work towards. Also, we're done with the deck like budget section for now. I just wanted to add make a few comments. So I usually like to ask under videos what people want to see next, and I'm doing this also to get some inspiration. But I also really feel like I'm really feeling uninspired about the all will be one commanders. A lot of them are just like kind of medium, and I'm really not satisfied with the builds. Like I was really hyped for Venser and see what I can make with him, but then I played him, play tested in a bunch. Really didn't like where that was going, and scrapped the deck. And I've done that for a couple of decks actually, and I don't want to, like, I want to be known as the channel where you can just click on any random on any random video and then say, hey, that's a good list, right? Like, you can just recommend that to people. And if you guys like the more memey kind of decks, there are a lot of other great content creators out there. Covert Blue covered a lot of really cool decks. Also more on the competitive side. MTG Josh, MTG Gnome, really cool content creators, like, check them out, right? But that is not my style of content. I just want to make good decks, or at least I want to have a reason to build a deck, if that makes sense. Like, I've also featured decks that are not that great by design, but they had concepts that were interesting to explore, at least to me, right? Where a Shadowborn Apostle combo, not a good deck, but something completely unique to the format. But if I play Venser Toxic, it's just like not going to have enough support, and I just hope to draw the right cards every time, and you don't draw those cards, you're absolutely toast. So yeah, this is like why you don't see certain commanders on this channel, at least for now. I can always change my opinion on that, but until then, see you in the next video. If you made this far, congratulations. Also join the Discord, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.